You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
This episode is brought to you by Palo Alto Networks, the leader in cybersecurity. As AI-driven attacks increase, organizations can't afford to have network security that's stuck in the past. Discover how Palo Alto Networks can help you predict what's coming and proactively secure against it with a zero-trust, AI-powered network security platform built to secure whatever, whenever, wherever. To learn more, visit paloaltonetworks.com/network security platform. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CyberWire's Research Saturday. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is our weekly conversation with researchers and analysts tracking down the threats and vulnerabilities, solving some of the hard problems, and protecting ourselves in a rapidly evolving cyberspace. Thanks for joining us.
So, through some of our regular Ukraine work monitoring, we have a task force that we have set up looking at specific Ukrainian customers who are, sensitive based on what kind of company they are and, of course, where they're located. And through this regular monitoring, we discovered this trend. And once we found it on one victim, we found it on a bunch of different victims, first in Ukraine, then all over the world.
That's David Liebenberg. He's head of strategic analysis at Cisco Talos. Today we're discussing their discovery of cracked Microsoft Windows software being downloaded by enterprise users around the world.
So that's how we came across it. We didn't realize how prevalent it was when we first encountered it.
Well, let's dig into some of the details here. I mean, we're talking about folks having cracked versions of Microsoft Windows installed on their systems. Is this an intentional choice by the organization to take this route?
So it's an open question, right? Why are we seeing so much of this? I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Partly you can, think of poor hygiene, poor security training, not talking about the risks of these things. But there could also be time pressures. There could be management issues. There could be, hey, I need this done. Oh, but that license is too expensive. Figure it out. Whatever the reason is, there's some sort of forces at work that are causing organizations all across the globe in all different industries. Employees at these organizations are downloading and leveraging these cracked tools.
What exactly is going on with this in terms of, are they downloading a version of Microsoft Windows that has already been cracked, or are they downloading a tool that will allow them to bypass the installation routines on Microsoft Windows? How does it work? So
universally, what we'll see is the Cracktivator aspect of it, which is, I have to credit that neologism with James Nutland on my team because it's such a great name. So you'll always see that sort of activation software cracked, and usually we'll see that with a cracked or pirated version of whatever legitimate software it's trying to activate as well. But you could use that cracked activation software with, say, a trial version or something like that. But typically, you're going to see both the activation software and the product being pirated or modified and then torrented and downloaded.
And well, you mentioned torrenting. I mean, is that the primary pathway that people get their hands on these things?
That's what we've seen. And, for an advanced actor, right, that can do research and do recon and set the stage, they can figure out what kind, are there particular torrents that are used in a particular geography? Are there particular tools that are especially important in a particular industry? And they can target, specific torrents and specific software that way.
Well, beyond this being, not the right thing to do, and the legal elements of running cracked software, what are some of the other dangers that come into play here?
Yeah, so beyond just, the illegality of pirating that software, there's two major risks that come from it. And so first, if you're using this cracked version, you're not going to get the regular security updates. You're not going to get the patches. You're going to be at risk from a vulnerability angle. What we've seen even more concerningly is that these adversaries are bundling these cracked activators with malware. And these aren't, just minors and nuisance malware like that. They're putting rats in there, powerful remote access Trojans that they can then use to download second stage malware, to get credentials, escalate privileges, move laterally, and just get a head start into your traditional apocalyptic attack chain. While it might seem kind of harmless, in fact, torrenting and downloading these cracked software can lead to really serious security issues.
And to be clear here, I mean, if I download one of these cracktivators, as you all call them, and let's say a copy of Windows, the copy of Windows will work, despite the fact that I'm having this other stuff installed over top of it.
Yes, exactly. And they're going to do whatever they can to, remain silent. So you think, hey, I'm just using, this free Windows. This is awesome. Well, in the background, they've modified your Windows Defender. They've modified, your firewall. They've made changes to, your defenses so that they can operate more clearly. They're maintaining network connections since these activators have to be rechecked periodically. So they're going to have access that way. So, there's going to be potentially a lot of malicious activity going on in the background while you're writing your Word document.
The start of the year is a great time to take that next step in your education, career, and beyond. Rely on N2K certification prep to provide the tools to help boost knowledge, skills, and confidence to get you there. And now, for a limited time, all N2K certification practice tests are 40% off. Visit n2k.com/certify and use promo code N2KVDAY. That's N2KVDAY to save 40% on your purchase. That's n2k.com/certify with promo code N2KVDAY. Offer ends Monday, February 19th. Happy learning.
And now a word from our sponsor, 6sense. 6sense provides award-winning cloud-based automated endpoint and vulnerability management solutions to streamline IT and security operations. With its advanced platform, businesses gain complete visibility and control over their infrastructure, reducing IT and security risks and optimizing operational efficiency. With 6sense, you'll get real-time alerts, risk-based vulnerability prioritization and remediations, and an intuitive automation and orchestration engine so you can focus on your core business goals, confident in the knowledge that your enterprise is secure, compliant, and running smoothly. Visit 6sense.com to learn why enterprises choose them. You mentioned that this came to your attention in part because of the work that you all are doing in Ukraine. Do you think this ties into the conflicts there?
Absolutely. I do think that there are APTs and advanced actors involved in that conflict who know that this is a potential means of entry. We have observed that there are advanced actors. There's open source reporting of, advanced actors using this to target organizations in sensitive areas like that. So it's an easy way for an APT to just kind of get a head start and get in there and then launch the rest of their attack chain.
What are your recommendations then for organizations to protect themselves against this?
I think first and foremost, there needs to be very strong and emphatic awareness campaign, whatever you want to call it. There has to be robust training and instructions not to do this, the risks that could be involved, the sheer scale and scope of the problem, just really drilling it into employees and perhaps to the next level of management, all the way up, that this is an incredibly serious issue. It's not just about, the illegality, as we mentioned, against the legitimate software, but also all these security issues that could happen. Beyond that, you want to do all the sort of traditional things that can limit harm once an adversary has entered. So you want to make sure that you're, segmenting your network. So when this happens, they don't move to the ICS. They don't move to the more sensitive areas. You have that blocked off. You want to make sure you have multi-factor authentication. You want to have regular monitoring and logging. And as I always say, get an IR plan in place. Make sure you are not trying to plan how to put out the fire while the fire is raging.
While you all have been digging into this, are there other apps or operating systems besides Windows that seem to be targeted here?
So Windows is the one we looked at primarily, but I have to assume that there is going to be a rich landscape of these kind of cracktivators for a whole suite of different software used for different industries and different geographies. So there was a European Biomolecular Research Institute, Bleeping Computer wrote about this, and a student downloaded some pirated statistics software, and through that, Ryuk happened. It's not just Windows, and it's not just rats and or miners or APT. This could be ransomware. This could be truly any threat that you could think of could be bundled with these things.
It strikes me, David, that there's a cultural component here as well, in that we talk about shadow IT, and if the IT department says to someone, no, you can't have that copy of Adobe Photoshop, and the the employee says, well, I need that to do my work, that could lead them in this direction.
Exactly. I think that plays a huge part in this, is these kind of pressures that'll come through the business and through employment, where there's going to be this kind of conflict between what would be secure and what would be expedient, or what will just help me keep my job, right? I mean, you see that as a factor in so many different kinds of attacks, like a phishing attack that plays upon, an employee's responsibilities or fears that something might happen. So, fear of losing your job or fear of, getting disciplined in it is a powerful kind of motivator for people to do things that might not be so secure.
Is there any sense at all for what might be causing the increase here that you all are tracking?
I think, it might just be something that's a little bit understudied and under monitored. Like, I did not know personally the scale of this issue until we took a look at it. So I think if we expand our research, we look into other software, we find more, indicators to pivot on, you could find that, it's a much wider problem than we had any idea about. But I think, as with, all malicious activity, there's also going to be responses to, different trends, whether that's geopolitical. So, the conflict, a conflict somewhere, or Russia's invasion of Ukraine leading to elevated threat activity. You can see that reflected in something like this as well. But in general, I think it's just there's a mountain under the sea that we haven't fully explored yet, but it seems to be a pretty vast problem.
And to be clear here, I mean, we've been talking about Ukraine, but your research has found this here in the U.S. as well.
Absolutely. And we have a geographical distribution that shows a strong concentration in Eastern Europe. And one of the more surprising things from our sort of geographical distribution information is there was a pretty small section in APAC. I know from my years of research on threat actors in that area that there is a lot of pirated software that goes on there too, that is also exploited and used in different adversarial campaigns. So I think if you looked at different cracktivators, in addition to Windows and other software that requires licensing, you would see very interesting different geographical distribution and different industries targeted. So it's a very fascinating, diverse, and kind of difficult problem.
Our thanks to David Liebenberg from Cisco Talos for joining us. Our discussion today was on their work tracking Microsoft Windows software being downloaded by enterprise users across the globe. We'll have a link in the show notes. And now, a word from our sponsor, SpyCloud, the cybercrime analytics leader. SpyCloud disrupts cybercrime by telling you what criminals know about your business and your customers, so you can take action to prevent ransomware, session hijacking, account takeover, and online fraud. SpyCloud constantly recaptures and analyzes new data from the criminal underground, including credentials, session cookies, and PII siphoned from malware-infected devices. With knowledge of the specific exposed data criminals have in hand from InfoStealer malware on managed and unmanaged devices, security teams can respond with a more efficient and effective process called post-infection remediation that fits seamlessly into existing incident response frameworks. Get SpyCloud's post-infection remediation guide outlining the 7 steps for preventing a malware infection from becoming a full-blown ransomware incident. Visit spycloud.com/cyberwire. That's spycloud.com/cyberwire. And we thank SpyCloud for sponsoring our show. The CyberWire Research Saturday podcast is a production of N2K Networks, proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. This episode was produced by Liz Irvin and senior producer Jennifer Iben. Our mixer is Elliot Peltzman, our executive editor is Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening.